What's good, Internet? My name is attackslug, and welcome to a gameplay preview of Guts and Glory, launching in early access on Steam tomorrow, February 16th, 2017. As always, full disclosure, this copy of the game provided by the publisher. This early access build launching with a level editor and Steam Workshop support. There are 4 playable characters with 12 planned and 21 official stages with 100 planned. And with that out of the way, if you are expecting the average YouTube video of this game where it's like, oh my god, sure, random violence, that's not what I do here. That's really not what I do here. Instead, I think it is important to have a discussion in this video about the visual language and trademark. Because as you may have noticed, if you've watched any footage of this game on any other channel or anywhere else, this is going to remind you of one simple thing, and that is a Flash browser game called Happy Wheels. Also actually out on iOS, I believe, and there's supposed to be a port on Android. You know, eventually it hasn't happened. I don't think it ever will. But that's besides the point. I think the important discussion here is, at what point... Oh, I'm dead. At what point is the visual nature of the game something you can trademark, if ever? Because clearly, the ragdoll physics, ultra-violence, dude on a bicycle with his kid thing here is so very clearly Happy Wheels, and whether or not the original creator of that game even cares, I don't know. Now, gameplay concepts, by and large, are not a thing that you can trademark or copyright. But obviously, visual character design, like you can't just put Sonic in your game. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to put Mario in there. You know, you can have an Italian plumber in your game, but it can't be Mario. So the question really is man on bicycle with small child a visually distinct enough piece of art that would be considered under trademark? And even then, when you have trademark, for that fight to happen, it has to be, you know, defended by the original, right through his head, the original creator, because if the original creator does not care, that's, you know, kind of a moot point. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away from the one man who makes this game. You know, he ran a successful Kickstarter and got this thing going, and it definitely plays well. You know, it is kind of that, hey, it's a little hard to control because it's a ragdoll physics deal, and that's kind of on purpose. So nothing to detract from that accomplishment of, you know, making a video game, which is not an easy task, and being able to raise a bunch of money to keep making that game. Also, there's a bomb. Not an easy task. But obviously, it strikes the case of, wow, this is extraordinarily similar, but would it be similar enough to be legally actionable? Because I don't believe that just saying, hey, we're going to put it in the third person absolves you of any responsibility of, you know, your game being 100% original. Now, clones in video games are nothing new, right? And sometimes you get enough clones. I mean, you look at things like Doom and the original Super Mario Brothers. Like, somebody innovates, you get a bunch of clones, and then eventually that leads to a genre. And you could make the argument, hey, physics-based guy on bicycle is a genre. Now, granted, there's Happy Wheels and there's this, so it's kind of, wow, it's, you know, not that big of an argument just yet, but looking at that's too many minds. Right now I am playing a lot of Neo, and clearly the people who made Neo played a lot. What happened there? Played a lot of the Souls games. And you can look at Lords of the Fallen and say, wow, those guys played a lot of Souls games. That game wasn't very good, but they definitely were heavily inspired by that. So at a certain point, that specific style of punishing action RPG type deal kind of goes, you know what? Yeah, that's a genre now. That Soulsborne stuff is a genre. And the same can be said of, you know, any kind of game that catches on in that nature and inspires folks to make games that are similar. Now, I suppose you could also make the argument about fan works, but where that kind of falls apart is, number one, Happy Wheels is a free Flash game. You know, it's a free browser Flash show, whereas this is launching on Steam Early Access for some price. I'm not sure what the actual price is because they didn't put it in their press deal that they sent me, so I honestly have... Whoa, there goes the kid. I honestly have no idea. But if I can make an assumption from the Kickstarter campaign, I'd say probably around $10. So the FanWorks argument kind of falls apart, but there are certainly many famous cases, or, not necessarily cases, but many famous interactions, like, say, the Great Gianna sisters back in the 80s, that never actually went to court, but certainly had pressure to, be taken off the marketplace because Nintendo was like, that's too similar to Mario, and we invented that shit. But again, it ended up becoming a genre, so at this point is not really that big of a discussion. But at the time was certainly kind of a big effing deal. So where this game will fall, where it is so very clearly inspired by another game, and so very clearly trading on all those same, core concepts, it does become a bit of, well, at what point is it an homage, and at what point is it just a straight up, we're going to take this thing because we know it does well on YouTube, and just rip off everything. Which, again, not taking away from the achievement of making a video game, but in terms of your marketing, always kind of seems a little bit weird and shady to me. I don't know. That's just me. The way that I see it, having been playing video games for a good 30-plus years now. Now, you could also make the argument that that's not going to work. That's not going to work at all. That the genre that you can actually place this game in is not necessarily ragdoll physics-based video game, but instead YouTube bait. And what I mean by that is there are a number of games that come out on Steam that are literally made for people like me. Well, not necessarily me specifically, because I don't really do that kind of stuff. But for people who are big on YouTube, your PewDiePies and Jacksepticeye and whatnot, to play and make funny faces at and scream at and, generally make content that is viewed by young children, etc., etc. And, I'm not going to say that that's a bad market to have, but a lot of those games, like, say, There's Poop in My Soup, are generally not of the same quality of, the kind of games that I prefer to play. And they are regarded as being, very simplistic flash in the pan. Now, what I will give this game credit on is that for being a difficult game, I just lost half a leg there. For being a difficult game that you are going to fail at a lot, it does... I fucked that up. It does do the important thing of making the failing amusing. And you're a lot less likely to be angry at the game when you're laughing at the ridiculousness of when you fail. So, no problem with that. That's gonna be, just on the ground. On the ground. No good. This stage is not easy. So, again, not knocking the game in terms of being a competent game that controls pretty well and, has its core concepts nailed down pretty well. But the whole YouTube bait thing, it just kind of, as someone who does YouTube and kind of tries to avoid that stuff, does get on my nerves a little bit. Just because it seems like such lowest common denominator, like, you don't really have an idea besides, wow, let's make it either disgusting or violent or have a lot of jump scares and then get a bunch of people on YouTube to play it. And the byproduct there is that the game will do well if they play it, So I've always found that to be a little bit distasteful, but again, that's just me. I'm an old man, so, my opinions don't necessarily line up with, oh no, with the youth of today and whatnot. So you've got the Y button will help you get some slowdown, and that can be helpful in hitting these corners in, without having to fall off, because I'm definitely just failing the fuck out of it here. But again, in general, this seems well made. I don't really have any complaints about the gameplay specifically. It kind of, more or less, is what I expected it to be in a manner of speaking. Like, it's not any more or any less of exactly what I expected, which was a 3D version of Happy Wheels. Which, again, nothing wrong with that. There's certainly a market for it, So there's certainly a market for, hey, this thing did really well on browsers and on mobile, so why not do it in a 3D space on the PC? And so I did download 2 of the Steam Workshop stages that were up. There were a handful of them up. I said, those 2 look interesting, and we'll hit up some other of the vehicles here, like Earl on his ATV. And I did beat this challenge. I did beat the 99% impossible challenge. All of the vehicles control a little bit differently, and so there are certainly, you know, there's a learning curve on the different vehicles, if you will. And, you know, that's alright. There's some mines here. These logs are where it gets a bit tricky. Nope, that's just half of my fucking body gone. Just gone! And then off the damn stage. But usually the checkpointing can be, nope, alright. It's usually decent, so no real complaints on that stuff, and that's just going to be a bomb. In any event, I did beat this because I have a high score there of just under 30 seconds. Firing Squad I did not beat, but you can see there are 4 different deals here, and Larry is a prototype, which plays much differently than the first 3. He has a rocket chair with a propane tank, and you can kind of just scooch around here and fly around, which is about as hard to control as you might imagine it to be. And yeah, you just hit the ground, and it's just real bad. It's just a real bad scene all around. This one I have not beaten, even though the guy who made it claims that he has beaten it. But it's a bit too much for the old attack slug. Perhaps I'm just too old to be doing this kind of nonsense, because my fingers are not quite what they used to be. I'm old, and I can't see. And now I'm what? Nope. Alright, well, we'll try it once as the Yang family here in this automobile, which I found the car stuff interesting because when you're driving slow, it's really easy to turn, and when you're going fast, it's a lot harder to turn, which is kind of like an actual car. So that little bit of detail I really appreciated. Although, you know, at a certain point, it makes the game way harder. So I guess there's that. But we're going to see how much farther we can get here in the Firing Squad, as there is just shit happening. Nope, nope, nope. There goes, yeah, a lot of blood. A lot of blood. And some bodies. So at this point, I would say you kind of get the idea. This is the kind of game, either you're really into the idea of what this has to present, or you are totally not. I find it to be somewhat compelling as someone who enjoys games like Trials, and anytime you could give me a time trial that is difficult, I am all the way down to playing that. I'm not always going to be good at them, but I am definitely down for, you know, the attempt. But I'll be curious to see how this evolves in early access moving forward, how much more gets added on what kind of a time frame, you know, with the feedback from the community, that kind of thing, because it's not bad. It's just, you know, extraordinarily derivative of a game that already exists, granted, in a different form and fashion, in a 2D, you know, Flash browser type deal, but generally the same concept. So, again, not a bad thing, just an observation from someone who's been playing games for a long effing time. But yeah, I can envision pretty much the same type of YouTube coverage that has been done with this before when it launched on Kickstarter, and also that's going to be hitting, you know, in the next couple of days. Just, you know, very much overreacting and overreacting to what this is, because I guess that's what sells on YouTube. Personally, that is not really my cup of tea when it comes to YouTube coverage, but hey, if that's the kind of thing that you like, there's going to be plenty of that in the next several days as this game launches on Steam Early Access tomorrow. So that being said, I hope I've given you a good overview here of Guts and Glory. Again, I don't know what the price is going to be when it launches tomorrow, because that was not included in the price sheet. I could not find that on any of the official channels for the game. So I'm going to assume around $10, somewhere in that neighborhood of a price. Thanks for watching. This is a gameplay preview of Guts and Glory, out tomorrow on Steam. I am your host, attackslug. I am not very good at driving an ATV. There are more videos every day, and I will see you next time, right here on this channel, and I'm out. Just wow.